Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this broadcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Wednesday, January 15th, 2024. And I know we're not supposed to be around tonight, but like we've said in the past, when there are things happening in Disclosure, there's plenty of news to talk about. We will fire up the show, and we are back here tonight. There are a lot of things happening. Without any further ado, let me go ahead and jump into the studio and welcome in our audience. Yeah, I missed that the other day. Sorry about that. I know. Let me get to it. Where are the drums? Got a small audience. Let's go ahead and have fun before everybody shows up. We get in trouble. All right. Who the heck do we have out there? We have Amiga Rules. Welcome, my friends, along with Anne Marie. Anonymous Rex is here, along with Austin Gilbert. We have Azriel, along with Banana Bowie, Barry West, Brian Morgan, Christine Lynn. I see CR, Craig, DT, Debbie, Carol. David Williams just popped up. Good to see you, David. Almost missed it. Eli McGinnis is around, along with Francis Tremblay. Health and Business popped up, along with Hemigod, Jack Gingers, Jack Dave. We got Johnny UFO. We got Kane Northrup, Kathy, Kelly Broughton, those piercing blue eyes. Good to see you, Kelly. We got Clipper here, along with Lisa Tenter. Who else we have there? We have we got Mr. Clickers here, along with Little. We've got Liz W, Madness, IWNL, Netherlands, maybe. We'll find out. Maritime Unprepared is here, along with Marvin the Martian. We've got Mike Tarabakla. Sorry. Greek name to me. Also want to welcome Mr. Joey B, Mustard Sock. We've got Nicholas Urich. Niles guys here, along with Nowhere Fast. We have NVME Forever First, along with Patricia Williams, Paul DeMond, FaZe Will. Good to see you, Will. Rainbow, a.k.a. also known as Jane. We have Rebecca Curry, Ronnie Deal, Right Meow. Ron L is here, along with Sam, Sander Jutt, Scott Fletcher, Sharon Rose. Good to see you, Sharon. Shonda 20, Shinobi 1 Kenobi, Surreal's here, along with Sprightly Sprites, Gemstone Crystal, Mineral Magic. They'd be doing your commercials, my friend. Steven's here, along with Steve Leap, Super Unknown, The Yarnaholic, Toxic Revenger, Wesley Sissons, and simple enough, just Z. On that note, my friends, let's go ahead and welcome into our friends that we have in the back. And who do we have there today? Well, our first friend who's coming in, it's been a while, but he is a fan favorite, my friends. Let's go ahead and welcome in Mr. Alan Levine. How's it going, Alan?
Going great.
Great to have you here, my friend. Also, I want to welcome our next friend coming in from the great state of Florida, Alice W.
Hi, Tom. I think this is going to be an exciting show.
Fingers crossed, my dear lady. Let's welcome in, coming from the great country of Canada, let's welcome in FreezerMan71. How's it going, FreezerMan?
Going great, Thomas.
Excellent. Great to have you here. Also, coming now from the upper Midwest, we could call it Wisconsin. Let's welcome in Laura Campbell. How's it going, Laura?
Great, Thomas. I wondered if you were going to go live with all the breaking.
There's too many things not to cover. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Crazy Thursday.
So you
Wednesday,
felt
actually.
the vibrations in the force as well.
Yeah, I was watching it live.
Yeah, interesting things to say the least. Oh, let's go ahead and welcome in. Let's turn the world upside down and shake it like a snow globe. And who pops out of Australia? I could say it's none of your business, but it's actually Susan Ford. How's it going, Susan?
That's it. I'm here. Wee. Look, it's going to be wow.
Oh, it's
All
a great...
It's a happening, isn't it? It's a happening.
Oh, it is. We went from silence to too many things to talk about, and hopefully we'll still have things to talk about on Friday, but we'll see where that goes. On that note, let's also welcome in our dear friend from the East Coast, Tia Marie. How's it going, Tia?
Hello, Thomas. Exciting night, exciting night.
Exciting
Well,
night.
wait to
You
see what
better
you got to
believe
say.
it, my friends. And if I could play the song, Mike, Disclosure, where the hell are you? Dealing with puppy piles and puppy poodles and puppy poop and kids trying to get to bed. Hopefully he'll show up eventually. I did send him a message to let him know we've got a show going on here today, but we'll have a fun time irrespective on that. Yeah, we do have Alan Levine in tonight. It should be a fun one. So jumping right to the top of the story of what's been going on, before we get to the two headlines, apparently there were conversations going between the UAP caucus yesterday. That would include Tim Burchett, Nancy Mace, and others who are the pro-disclosure group coming out of the House of Representatives, and coming fresh off the lips of the news of the reconfirmed Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. There is absolutely zero chance that we will be getting a UAP, what do you call it again? Is the dog
Select
driving?
committee?
Yeah, thank you very much, Alan. A UAP select committee coming out. What are your thoughts about that? You know, this is something that was put off last start of the House, and we didn't get it. We're almost in the same place again where it didn't happen.
Well, the new administration coming in, until they're sworn in and we get everybody in place, Tulsi as head of intelligence, and Patel and the FBI, and Harmon and Homeland Security. Once these guys all get in, everyone starts to settle down. Even President Trump can just make an executive order and get this going, or he might just go, "Hey, I'm declassifying everything," and you don't really need a UAP task force. I've shared this before because I heard these excuses with the Biden administration. Oh, we need the UAP bill to do this or to do that. And I posted on many sites the laws that allow the federal government to go after nuclear materials, unlicensed nuclear materials, wherever they might be. You don't need to have a bill to authorize you to go into even a private company and take something that's considered to be harmful or nuclear. You have the laws already in place to do that. And Schumer said when the bill failed that this was a warning shot, just to tell the people that have this stuff that we can come take it. So that being said, today, beyond the kerfuffle over the select committee, we have some information coming out. I think someone like Nell might consider it catastrophic, but I've always shared that that's likely the way it will be, just because history. Yeah. Every misstep or scandal that's occurred in the U.S. government, it's not been slowly rolled out. It's come out catastrophically. Someone finally says enough, and they just come to the microphone and start talking. And that's what it looks like we're having now. The two big headlines today were Ross Coulthart's reveal that they have firsthand witnesses that from the Legacy program who made a recovery. There's 3 of them. And then on Andy's That UFO podcast, he had Logan. What's his last name?
Lenville Logan. Yeah, that was an interesting one.
Logan. Yeah. Now, my understanding, and somebody may be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding from people that I know, Logan was supposed to be a surprise witness at the last hearing. And at the last minute, they said no. There was another individual who was also supposed to speak, and they said no to that. Now, that might sound nefarious. I think it was a time situation. I really do. they book these rooms and they have so much time, and they go like, hey, you know,
Yeah. Now, in addition to Lenville going ahead and testifying, it was also rumored behind the scenes that Carl Nell was supposed to come and testify yet again, because Nell was supposed to testify last year, but he backed out at the last minute, and it happened again this year.
Yeah. Again, I don't think there's anything nefarious about that. I mean, he's certainly been very outspoken when he spoke, shared at the New York conference, hey, the NIH is real, and they're here, and they've been here a long time. And as Lewis said, and as Logan said on the UFO podcast tonight, disclosure has occurred, at least what people in the military would consider.
Yeah, but Lewis said that years ago. And then he kind of walked it back and said, yeah, it's kind of more in progress. It really hasn't occurred yet. Well,
that's not what Logan said tonight. Logan said clearly that the fact that the government as a whole acknowledges that UFOs exist, and I have to agree with that, because... Right,
but we haven't heard that from Aro. Aro's been putting the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah, if you go back to my day, it wasn't... They didn't even acknowledge, no, there are no UFOs, period. Nothing. It doesn't exist. It's crazy talk. At least now you have a branch of government, not Arrow, but a branch of government says, yes, UAPs are real.
You mean the Space Force?
That is caveated by Arrow, who says, well, we can explain them, though. They're saying, no, that this is an NHI, as Carl Nell has said.
Yeah.
These are explainable things. We just need more data, which means we just need to kick the can down the road a little bit longer.
Like they explained away the whole Puerto Rico incident from Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, 2013, the Homeland Security footage we have that's undeniable. They explained all of that away.
I was still with DHS at that time as a terrorist liaison officer, and I was sent that footage, and I parsed it out to a number of friends who I knew who could analyze it better than me and give me measurements and, how fast it was going and everything. And I felt vindicated when I read that academic paper today that said, yes, in fact, it didn't split in two, that it was a gravitic mirage, which was obvious to me even before I sent the film off. This what you're looking at is the gravitic bubble around it got wet, and when it came out of the water, and you're seeing a mirage.
Yeah,
it looks like two ships because they mirrored each other as it flew away. It was the exact same ship, and that second one was very translucent. You can see that right in the image.
Oh yeah,
so I felt a little vindicated about that.
But if I could bring this up for just for a second here, this really aligns with what your sighting that you had. What was it, in 1974? Year was that?
In 1974, and that was brought up by the Tedesco brothers today. They were talking about the UAPs they're looking at over the ocean off the coast of New Jersey.
But you had seen that same kind of
back in
Einstein
74.
sphere around it. But more importantly, as soon as we can get to the story to cover this, the UFO that you saw align with the UFO that this new whistleblower is talking about.
Well, that was the one in 79.
Yeah,
that was the egg-shaped craft.
Yeah, bingo. Yeah.
One of the things when I saw that was that I'd already been with APRO, the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, for 4.5 years or so at that time, and I had never heard of an egg-shaped craft. We had phylums of different craft shapes and stuff, and there were no eggs among them. And when I saw this thing, I go like, well, that's nothing I would expect to ever see. And since that, it was I didn't hear her testimony at the time, but in 1980, Barbara Jordan saw the same exact thing, and I heard her. Richard interviewed her years later, and she described it exactly as I saw it. This large, kind of Volkswagen-sized egg with these spindly little tiny legs. It doesn't look like they could possibly hold it up. And it landed literally in her driveway in the same vein that it landed basically in my driveway. And at the time, I'd go like, how in the heck could this get here? Although we were on the edge of the city at the time.
Yeah.
But apparently they can, and they did with her as well. And then in the Trinity case, Jacques Vallée describes that craft as being egg-shaped, and it had cracked open, it had broken open, and he describes the floor of the ship at the bottom, larger, rounder part of the craft, which is what I saw. Because you would think that, oh, if it was, you know, kind of TikTok shape, that the floor would be on the long part, but no, it's on the bottom.
But if I remember, Mike, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in today. One of the things I remember, I thought we had a conversation with Lou where he was talking about the 2 crashes that happened with Roswell, and the second one, didn't it have an egg-shaped craft? There was something to that extent?
I know Grush shared that they had, of the recovered craft, that they had an egg-shaped craft that they couldn't get into.
Right.
And they literally mounted it on the wall somewhere in one of these hidden areas. And but at that time in 79, I had never seen or heard anything like that. I had interviewed dozens and dozens of witnesses, high-profile witnesses, Jesse Marcel, Betty Hill, Sergeant Mooney, Bill Herman, Betty Andreessen, and none of them had seen eggs. It was all saucers.
Exactly.
You know, saucers.
If we can we let's go ahead and play this video clip here. Coming to News Nation, we'll hear talk about this, if you don't mind, Alan.
Sure, please. All
right, let's go ahead and get to this. Here we go, folks. Play this fresh off the press. Here we go.
Can't explain. Congressional hearings, Pentagon whistleblowers, armadas of strange aircraft flying over, of all places, New Jersey. What does it all mean? Well, since last year's groundbreaking interview with whistleblower David Grush, News Nation's been out front on this story, and we've got another major exclusive. A new whistleblower is coming forward saying he's not just saying he's heard about a secret government program to retrieve UFO crash remains. He says he's worked on this program. He claims to have video to prove it and credentialed colleagues who back him up, and he has the attention of at least one senior lawmaker. News Nation's Ross Coulthard has been working on this story for more than a year. He conducted the interview for a special report airing right here this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and News Nation correspondent Joe Khalil is here with a first look. Joe, these are pretty stunning claims.
Yeah, they are, Elizabeth. The man you saw in the video, Jake Barber, he's an Air Force veteran, and he is coming forward with some shocking claims. The first person to go public saying that he actually participated directly in a secret military program that he believes was to retrieve UAP or alien craft. Now, Barber says he was contracted as a helicopter pilot. He retrieved all kinds of crashed craft. Some of it, he says, top secret and explainable. Others, he says, however, he believes were non-human origin. It's not just him. We've got 3 other military veterans backing up his story on the record and on camera to News Nation. So take a listen quickly to just part of Ross Coulthard's conversation with Barber.
So tell me about the moment when you realized that you were involved in a retrieval of non-human technology, alien tech.
So it became very clear the first time our communication process and procedure was modified. And then just visually looking at the object on the ground, you could tell that it was extraordinary and anomalous. It was not human.
How close did you get?
Well, I was a helicopter pilot, and I operate with 150-foot to 200-foot long line. So I got within 150 feet of this object.
What did you see?
I saw an egg, a white egg.
Was there any visible propulsion system on it?
No, not what we would know. There's no engine. There was no thermal signature. I was operating at night when I finally came in to pick it up. So I'm working under night vision goggles at the time. And it was quite clear. I flipped them up, flipped them down, and looked at it a couple of different ways.
How did you know that that egg-shaped object was non-human in origin?
Well, visually, after seeing all kinds of things in my past, it was clearly something that was ridiculously looking. It's inconsistent with anything I'd ever seen before. I can also tell you that the reaction by my team, we all knew we were dealing with something extraordinary.
And at no stage were you ever subsequently told that the craft was of non-human origin?
I will tell you that during this process, over the last couple of years, it's been confirmed to me by ranking members of the UAP task force that what we were working with that night was in fact NHI, and it was not a unique experience.
So, Elizabeth, Saturday night, 8 p.m. is that special that you can see here. They've also got some exclusive video of one of these retrievals that's never before been seen. We've also confirmed Barber has met with some high-level Senate staff. So a lot there, and you're going to see all that this weekend.
Wow. That's a blockbuster. All right, Joe Khalil, thanks so much.
Yeah. And all right, it looks like it'll be an interesting Saturday. Hey, Mike, you with us, my friend? Mike. In the back. Well, yeah, I think he's still busy. Wanted to welcome. Interesting conversation, Alan. Your thoughts on this? It seems like we're into a point where disclosure is moving forward, and we've gotten away from some of these more than questionable, if you want to call it, whistleblowers who've been coming out. Yeah, and another point that this gentleman made, which touched me, was the fact that he said it was white, and that's what I saw. The one I saw was white. It did have a lavender glow coming off it, but it was white overall. The one that you had seen in the past, right? Yeah. Yeah, the one in '79. Right. So if I go ahead and bring up I understand now that electrical discharge or plasma discharge in a nitrogen oxygen atmosphere will create a lavender glow, which is something I didn't know at the time. Right. And that the Tedesco brothers today were, in speaking about the gravitational lensing of the craft they were seeing, harkens back to, as I was sharing about the one I saw in '74. They said that the lensing causes like a halo effect where it goes from red to blue, which is what I was seeing going around this gravitational lensing thing. And that was something that, I figured it's gravitational lensing, and the rate at which it was spinning, it made it also appear kind of lavenderish, but there were times when it was redder or bluer, but it was spinning very fast, and it gave a lavender look to it. Again, in a nitrogen oxygen atmosphere. So again, it validated what I had seen. I go like, oh, that is what I saw. So it connected the dots for me. One thing I wanted to share about whistleblowers, and I've shared this with you and Mike in our conversations earlier this week. It's great that we got these military whistleblowers coming out saying, yeah, I picked up a craft and stuff. But for the last, 5-6 decades, we've had eyewitnesses on the ground that have been even closer than these military guys to the craft. They have been close to NHI. A good example, Betty and Barney Hill. Betty spent, it looks like maybe 2 or 3 hours on a craft, speaking one-on-one to extraterrestrials. At least they claim to be extraterrestrials. Yeah. And there are numerous cases like that. And so, the only difference here with these, the military people that have come out, and we had one that came out yesterday, I think, on Jesse Michaels. That one. Yeah, and he claimed to just simply see a floating orb in a laboratory and what appeared to be some type of gauntlet. And I go like, yeah, great. I can give you, 24 people that saw a lot more than that, and it's great. It's good. But are we going to learn a lot from, I saw this one thing and ignore the testimony of dozens and hundreds of people that come before that were dismissed or going, hey, they're crazy, the stigma. People lost their jobs, their marriages broke up, they were hounded out of polite society. Some of them, like Sergeant Mooney, we don't even know what happened to him. We know the air base said they were moving him, and we never heard from him again. Yeah. We haven't been able to find him. So a lot of things have happened to these people in the past that were not under the specific designation of whistleblower. Right. Because they weren't reporting felonies or
embezzlement of funds or anything like that. And these guys coming out tonight, they're not either. They're not technically under the law whistleblowers, but they are sharing secrets that we didn't know exist. And if they have film footage, Katie, bar the door. That's something.
And talking about footage, this guy says he has footage of this egg-shaped craft. Can't wait to see that. That'll be coming out Saturday. But this isn't just about this whistleblower coming forward, because we had other whistleblowers coming out in the last day or so. Some of them of which, unfortunately, are tied back to Stephen Greer. It's just a very concerning fact. And along those lines, maybe what they're saying doesn't line up as much as what it could with what this new guy says. Now, we do have a clip here, if I can go ahead and play this next, of LUE Elizondo appearing on the, what is it called again? Let me get over here. The triggered live stream over on Rumble. Let me go ahead and get my mouse pad over here so I can control this and move it around. Let's go ahead and bring up LUE Elizondo, reflecting to what Ross Coulthart, where we just heard his clip on it, talking about this whistleblower. Let's see what he has to say. Here we go. Let me get to this full. All right, here we go.
Expert and formal special intel agent LUE Elizondo. But in the meantime, be sure to check out a brand new sponsor, Refuge Privacy. We all use our phones non-stop, but the problem is
that
it's
a commercial
also
there. Let me get to it. Blah blah blah. Okay, here we go. Get to LUE,
buddy.
Don, thank you so much for having me. You know the old military saying, when you get my age, every day above ground is a good day.
I'm not too far behind you, man. Maybe it just feels that way, but these last few years in politics have definitely aged me about a solid century, so I get it. But LUE, I'd love to get your reaction to this new investigation. Obviously, you've been on the show a couple of times. We've spoken about this. I know you've been looking into this stuff as part of your life's work in government and out. How do you digest all of that in the context of your work?
Well, that's a great question, Don. It's a living contradiction, isn't it? I spent a good portion of my career, almost 10 years, for the Pentagon and the intelligence community investigating UAP, or in the vernacular UFOs, with your taxpayer money, only for the government to come out and pretend like, oh, we weren't doing any of that, right? Until finally they were caught red-handed, and they had to tell the truth, at least a little bit, to what they could about the reality of the investigation that we were leading. I would like to say that Ross Coulthart, as an investigative journalist, a lot of people don't know this. He is not only a fantastic investigative journalist, he's also an attorney. So he looks at things a little bit more discerning than I guess maybe a lot of folks in the media does. And he also makes sure that every piece of information that he has is backed up by tangible information. And from what I've known about this, I've been following this for about a year and a half. Ross has kept this under wraps and needed some help from others in the special operations.
Interesting piece, Alan. LUE just said he's been working about this whistleblower for the last year and a half.
Well, Ross said it's been 2 years. 2 years. Now, you know, how much dead time was in there? Because I know Ross has been very busy, and there's other things that he's been involved with. So he's got a lot. He knows a lot that he hasn't shared yet. Of course, he's famous for bringing out the shopping center size UFO hidden somewhere on the planet, which we'd all love to know where that is. Everybody has their guess. So there, he knows a lot, and he's very level-headed. He didn't come into it. He, like so many of us, he came into it going like, I can figure this out, and it's probably not, alien. And he was converted. And it didn't take long. When you I hear even today talking heads come on these shows and go, well, why aren't there any good photographs or video? Or I go, where have you been? I mean, I have my top 10 list of film, most of it taken before AI or CGI or anything, that is indisputable. This is obviously nothing natural.
No.
Where it comes from, that I couldn't tell you, but it's certainly not anything the Russians or Chinese were making at the time, which is another just ridiculous notion that keeps coming up. And today on both these podcasts, they did talk about the drones, and everyone agreed that likely the drones, those that are actually prosaic drones, are likely DoD drones being tested by private contractors, which is something I've been sharing, as you know, for quite some time now. And I've looked at, I must get a half a dozen people send me videos, half a dozen each day. And I would share that, yes, definitely some of these are just plain old airplanes. They're not, even drones. But the ones that I see as drones, and we've talked about the particular manufacturer of those, I agree. These are been sent out to, by private contractors to be tested or programmed in the same way up here in the Bay Area. They test the self-driving cars.
Right.
You can't put somebody in it and just run around. They're driverless and they're passengerless, and they're just driving around to program them. And they'll do that for months and months, collecting information. They're self-learning. And I would presume that these drones that are being produced, I believe they're being produced for the Navy, are the same way, that they're self-learning. So you got to send them out. That's why you see, 15, 20 or so at the same location at the same time, because they're all learning for the same mission.
Right.
That's why they send them out there. But then there are those others, the reddish orange orbs that people are seeing, which I believe are in the daytime, the metallic spheres.
Yeah, I have those. I have the reddish orange ones flying in front of my house on a regular basis. So yeah, they are prolific. They are everywhere.
Yeah, and I believe in the daytime, in natural light, they would look like the silver spheres that we've seen. But at nighttime, they're the plasma's glowing, and there's different reasons why it would be neon orange red rather than nitrogen lavender. But that's what I believe these things are. The pros probably sent out curious about what are all these drones in the air doing. If you were from a different place, you go like, well, what's all this stuff in the air now? I mean, let's check this out, send these probes out to find this out. So I think you have a mix of both. And it's, again, when we're talking about China or Iran or Russia, I guarantee you we'd be speaking Mandarin if China had these. I mean, there's
if they had that technology, they'd be using it every day, right, Alan?
Of course. Why would they be buzzing Taiwan with their regular jet fighters when they had something like this? If they want, they claim, the U.S. government is claiming they're buzzing Taiwan as a show of force. Well, why don't they send their drones over there as a show of force, like they're supposedly showing a show of force over the pools of the New Jersey residents? What are they taking pictures for home and garden? I mean, what? I don't believe that it is a foreign adversary. You have to also think about what they would have to get through every night. They would have to get through NOAA, which is the all the surveillance equipment we have in the ocean. They'd have to get through the Air National Guard, the Coast Guard, Space Force, NORAD, before they could get even over dry land. And the people say, well, what about the Chinese spy balloon? Okay, first off, the only one calling it a spy balloon, that came later. The Chinese claimed, no, that was a weather balloon.
But if we can, I'd like to get back to this video clip here of Lou talking for a bit.
Sure.
All right, here, let's go ahead and get great conversation. Well, let me go ahead and get back to Lou and Trump Jr. Here we go.
A fantastic investigative journalist. He's also an attorney. So he looks at things a little bit more discerning than I guess maybe a lot of folks in the media does. And he also makes sure that every piece of information that he has is backed up by tangible information. And from what I've known about this, I've been following this for about a year and a half. Ross has kept this under wraps and needed some help from others in the special operations community, I'll say, for personal protection purposes for some of these individuals who were brave enough to come out and have their story told to the American people. But it was getting really dicey there for a while. So I've been following this topic, and exactly what you said and what Ross said. A tier 1 operator, think about that. We're talking America's finest, the best of the best, tip of the spear. Think of Delta Force, think of that type of caliber of individual that when all else fails, they get sent to do a mission, right? They come with a warning, right? Only break glass in case of an emergency. So when you have a tier 1 operator and their colleagues coming out and telling the American people, yes, I was part of a UAP program, a crash retrieval program, and here is what we did. And by the way, here's some of the bad things that occurred as well. I think America needs to listen. These are individuals that take polygraphs. They have psychological evaluations on a regular and routine basis. They are America's finest. I'm frustrated because you talk about my life's work here. For example, Congress just had an opportunity to create a UAP subcommittee. And one would think with all the nonsense going on with drones and Chinese balloons and UAP, that at least Congress would be able to stand up a subcommittee, not even a committee, a subcommittee on what the heck's going on in our skies.
I have to bring this up because this is something we talked about earlier in the podcast today, was that there was a chance to go ahead and have a select subcommittee on this, Alan. And this is the second time that Mike Johnson has turned down the opportunity to do it. Now, although we lost that opportunity, I do have to go ahead and report that Mike Turner has lost the chairmanship, I believe, of the Intelligence Committee in the House. Yes. So the one person who was based in the same geographic area as Wright Patterson, the person who's been known, Swan, I know you're watching, my friend, the person you love the most, or I should say hate the most, who worked hard to shut down the whole conversation on the UAP topic, has been shown the door for his lead on the committee. Do you think that'll make a change in how the committee sees things, Alan?
Well, as I shared, when we're talking about who knows what in the Congress and Senate, you have to remember, and again, I've written this, posted this on Richard's site and other sites more than 3 years ago, going on 4 years ago now. The Senate Intelligence Committee and and the Congressional Select Intelligence Committee heard from these 40 witnesses.
Right.
These 3 guys would be part of that. I know Kit Green spoke to them as well. They have this information, so it's not. It's almost redundant. It's what the rest of the House wants to hear is what the Select Intelligence Committee already knows. Now, how many members are there of the Select Intelligence Committee? Well, technically there are 21, but that's not all the people that were at these briefings. They had their lawyers, they had their interns, they had their stenographers. All in all, if you add the Armed Services Committee with it, you have more than 200 plus people that heard beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have legacy programs, we have collected. They've already seen this video. This video is going to come out Saturday. They've already seen it, and they've seen others. They've seen what they call the Black Island video, where they were trying to recover a cruise missile, and this craft came up from under the ocean and snatched it from them. And that's a video, a 4 HD video that exists. They've seen that. They've held metamaterial. They've seen photographs of aliens. I guarantee you a lot of those interns went home with ontological shock that they certainly didn't expect to have before they entered that briefing. What the rest of the House wants to do is get into a skiff with someone like Rush or other members of the Senate Intelligence Permanent Select Committee and hear what they heard. So to set up an individual committee to figure out what's going on in the skies, we already know what's going on in the skies.
Right. Now, they may be open to having a task force, and I hate to say it, they were against it, but the last time we had real disclosure coming from the federal government, it was from the UAP task force, and we haven't had anything worth anything coming out of our. Am I right?
That's correct, but you wouldn't have got it with the UAP task force if not for COVID.
Right.
And I've written extensively about this. COVID was the black swan that the UAP task force needed to get people to come out of the woodwork, because all the gatekeepers were sent home and the second in charge were left guarding the hen house, and people began to talk. They came to Grush's offices and said, hey, My boss is gone. I want to share this with you. And that was the real breakthrough. If it wasn't for COVID, they wouldn't have any more than Arrow has. And I know on this working group that were just, when we talk about working group, they had their own offices.
Right.
This is something that people, when they think of the task force, they think, oh, they have an office and they have cubicles. No, it's not how this thing works. These task force members had their own office, their own duties. The UAP task force situation was collateral. Okay, this is something added on. It's like Muldry, the first hearing guys, the guys that spoke initially. Moultrie was one of them, Air Force guy, I forget the other guy. They spoke to Congress. They had literally, I think, a month to put together a report and spent 2 hours on it, is what I heard. And they really didn't know anything. They just, it was a collateral duty. And that's what this working group was. Hey, you're part of this classified working group. If you want to come in tonight and look at these pictures.
One thing you didn't bring out earlier that our audience missed, that I talked about it with you earlier, that when Lenville Logan was part of the task force at that point, you were saying he was one of over 2,000 people who were looking at material at the time. So it's not like he was part of an elite group of like 20 or 30 people. He was one of 2,000. And I think that's one thing a lot of our audience doesn't get.
Yeah, it's just like when we hear about Grush, people think, oh, this was one investigator or one guy. They don't even look at it. He was an investigator, like an investigator at a district attorney's office. Okay, he
was a lead investigator. He had a whole staff of people, didn't he?
Yeah. Yes, he had a whole staff of people. He wasn't just a single individual. And it was the same with this UAP working task force group. It started out small. I think it was 100 or 200 people from different disciplines within the military, within the Air Force and the Navy and they said, hey, you're in charge of engineering, or you're in charge of engines, building engines, you're mechanics, blah, blah, blah. You're classified to this level. Would you like to chime in and tell us what we're looking at here in this picture? Analysts, data collectors, sensor people that know about radar. And they would say, hey, we're going to have a meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. Everyone would get on their classified servers. This wasn't something they were doing on their cell phones. They'd get on a classified server and they'd all look at whatever material was hot for that week. Okay, hey, what do you think of this? This is a video we got, or this is signal data information we got. This is radar data we got. And everyone would chime in and give their 2 cents. And there's still a lot of stuff in debating. Like Logan was talking about the jellyfish video, and he says, to his understanding, that is still undetermined. That's a true unknown. Whereas I believe her name was Sarah. Was her name?
Yeah.
There was. She said no. They did find out what that was.
I think it was Sarah Gam, right?
Yeah. She said it wasn't anomalous. But I've heard Logan say, yes, it's still anomalous. And there was another individual who said that as well.
Yeah.
And he said, as Jeremy said, that it's a much longer video. There's 20 minutes. And he alluded to it doing something that Jeremy has talked about, where it went into the water. He didn't say it went into the water. He was being clandestine about that, but he said it does some unusual things that were unexplainable. Well, that's what Jeremy and George Knapp said when it went in the water, but no one's seen that section of the video. That would definitely eliminate it from being, anything normal. So, but if they're going to release this video Saturday, and
this is showing them going ahead and pulling the egg up from some multiple helicopters, which almost sounds like equivalent to what we had going on down in Texas. What was that one again? The one where it was a diamond-shaped craft, a double diamond-shaped craft.
With the two
ladies.
Landrum case.
Yeah, the Cash Landrum case, right?
Yeah. And they both got radiation poisoning from that.
Right, but there's the younger boy didn't, but the 2 older ladies got it, and it was terminal for them. Again, similar to Cash Landing, because that one supposedly there were multiple helicopters that were tethered to a craft as well.
And they did trace that to the Night Stalker wing of one of the SAC bases there in Texas. I don't know if it was Cash or Landrum who confronted the pilot, and he wouldn't talk to her. But that's a very interesting case. Was that something? Was that not ours? Were they chasing a test vehicle?
Yeah.
We don't know, but it was highly radioactive and melted part of the road that had to be repaired.
And the two women who were exposed had major symptoms of radiation poisoning. Now, if I could really quick, let me go ahead and play this last part of the clip of Lou and Trump Jr. Here we go. Let's play this.
Tier 1 operator, think about that. We're talking America's finest, the best of the best, tip of the spear. Think of Delta Force. Think of that type of caliber of individual that when all else fails, they get sent to do a mission, right? They come with a warning, right? Only break glass in case of an emergency. So when you have a Tier 1 operator and their colleagues coming out and telling the American people, yes, I was part of a UAP program, a crash retrieval program, and here is what we did. And by the way, here's some of the bad things that occurred as well. I think America needs to listen. These are individuals that take polygraphs. They have psychological evaluations on a regular and routine basis. They are America's finest. I'm frustrated because you talk about my life's work here. For example, Congress just had an opportunity to create a UAP subcommittee. And one would think with all the nonsense going on with drones and Chinese balloons and UAP, that at least Congress would be able to stand up a subcommittee, not even a committee, a subcommittee on what the heck's going on in our skies. And they couldn't even do that, right? Meanwhile, you have people like Tim Burchett and Burleson and Nancy Mace and Anna Polina doing their very best to try to get the truth out to the American people. And yet they're being stymied internally by what? By bureaucracy and politics. And so it's very, very frustrating to see. But I am also very, very optimistic that this story that's coming out is going to change the landscape significantly on this topic.
So I also know you're putting together some critical recommendations as our nation continues to grapple with these findings. Specifically, how does this all relate to specific policy goals, and especially our policy towards drones and other types of aircraft?
Yeah, fantastic question. Look, here's the bottom line. After 9/11,
this is where we're going to see Lou again working with Don Jr., trying to go ahead and shore up his potential post in the Trump administration.
You would have thought we have learned our lesson, especially with what we call U.S. air domain awareness. What is going on in our skies? And so for 20 years, we've been telling the American people, nothing to see here, folks. We're safe. We know everything in our sky. The truth is that is absolutely opposite of what's actually going on. We don't have a clue what is in our skies. As highlighted, which you've highlighted before, Chinese spy balloons just wafting, completely unchallenged over our North American airspace. Drones in New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Virginia, Florida, California, Oregon, right? Same issues that we're seeing overseas with some of our joint bases, like in the UK, where they're having drone issues, right? Call them drones, call them whatever you want. Bottom line is the administration's response to that is, well, they're not ours, they're not enemies, we don't know whose they are, but nothing to worry about here, folks. Let's just go ahead and turn the page, and they're all being flown lawfully. You do not shut down military airspace because someone is flying a drone lawfully over your airspace, over your airbase. So we've got a problem. And I think Ross is absolutely right. You, people like yourself, people like your father who want answers, understand how the bureaucracy works. We need to have some concrete recommendations that someone like your father and his staff, by the way, great cabinet picks, have the ability to do something with. So we have been making recommendations, for example, a national strategy on what we're calling emerging technologies in our airspace, multi-domain, right? So whether it's a drone or it's a new type of reconnaissance aircraft or it's a UAP, someone needs to be able to tell your dad if he asks a question and give him an answer in 5 minutes, not 5 hours, not 5 days, not 5 weeks or 5 months. immediately. So another recommendation is to have some sort of, I know it's a bad word, but kind of like we have a border czar and a drug czar, have a air domain czar that can work with the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, work with NIM Aviation, the National Intelligence Manager for Aviation.
No, Alan, isn't NIM Aviation the ones who actually came out with their new logo that included a UAP on it, a flying saucer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The government is so redundant. I mean, that's what NORAD does. Okay.
Yeah.
NORAD's been around. People that years ago, they were talking about what NORAD referred to as fast walkers.
Right.
UFOs that were shooting through their radar. So NORAD sees everything. Okay. And what they don't see, the NSA sees, or the Space Force, if you want to go into high space. So it's almost redundant. I don't mind him pitching the idea. I mean, it's fine. But again, it's not. If in fact we have on Saturday night, they show the recovery of an alien spacecraft on national television. It's Katie bar the door. I kid you not. You know, all holds are barred at this point.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make it drones. What are you talking about? Let me share this about drones because again, I hear so much stuff about, some kid flying drone. Drones that you buy off the shelf on Amazon or at your hobby store, they are mechanically limited to altitudes of 400 feet. They cannot fly any higher than that.
And plus, a lot of the new ones that are coming out actually communicate back in the cloud and look for actually restriction zones based on the drone's actual GPS location that prevents them from actually doing basic operations within areas that are considered to be shut down.
And they're all registered with the FAA. So this kids flying drones, baloney. That's not happening. That's not what it's all about. And the Chinese are not flying them, and the Iranians aren't flying the Russians. These are the drones that are really drones are American drones. And then you have the UAP. And again, some of these drones that the DOD is working with may be looking at the UAP, or the UAP is looking at the drones. But do we need a czar to fill another seat? Yeah, again, I like LUE. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff, but it's redundant. We already have an entire field within the military. Space Force is supposed to tell us what's in our skies.
If we can, Mike just piped up. Mike, welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Are the puppies done pooping and peeing, and are they asleep?
Actually, they just got to sleep now. Very
thank
good
God.
Observation, my friend. But I beg to differ with Alan. I could tell you that we do need somebody like LUE in a position like that to finally cut through all the bullshit that the government has been keeping from the public on this subject. And as far as drones are concerned,
I don't disagree with. Is fine. I like LUE. I think he's a good guy, and if he can be a voice of reason within there, I'm simply sharing that there's no excuse for anyone to say we don't know what's in the sky. It's not true. We absolutely know what's in the sky. The Chinese quote unquote spy balloon. There were several before that. NORAD admits to that. Do they have a dual purpose? It certainly wasn't a covert spy satellite thing, but as a weather station, does it have a dual purpose where it could collect radio? Yeah, sure. Most likely has a dual purpose, but is
not most likely.
Spy balloon?
Yeah.
No,
they recovered the one that they shot down.
Yeah,
and
the one
it
that
had
they
a
shot
full
down.
surveillance package on board. So
their reluctance in shooting it down was the $800,000 worth of Sidewinder missiles that they used to shoot it down. I kid you not, that was the reluctance.
And then the claim
we
was
sent all those things over to Ukraine.
Right, but here's the thing, Alan.
Yeah.
NORAD, when this occurred, and it was very public, they said the reason they had not detected these objects, like the 3 shoot downs that occurred right after the Chinese balloon, they said that they had the filters on, preventing slow-moving craft and smaller objects from being picked up and detected by the sensor suite. So I don't believe that to be true, but let's say it is. The bottom line is we do need somebody like Lou that can get in there and straighten up the big mess that the government itself is. It's FUBAR, and anyone in the military will know exactly what that term means. Someone like Lou can actually go in there and clean this mess up once and for all and start to bring out truth and transparency once and for all. So Thomas and I stand behind and support and advocate for Lou to be put into that position in the incoming administration. I think it's going to clear up a lot of bullshit.
I totally agree. I had spoken to some people long before this when they talked about forming a presidential committee that Lou should be part of that. So I'm not against Lou doing that. I'm just sharing that there is no excuse at this point feigning ignorance that we don't know what's in the sky. We do know what's in the sky. They just won't admit to it.
So does, well, they're not going to have a choice very, very soon, Alan, on Saturday, because our good friend, Ross Coulthard, that Thomas and I know very well, has been working on this whistleblower and this story for 2 years now.
Sure.
And he's choosing to drop it right before the inauguration. It's not a coincidence. And he's going to have not just somebody like David Grush that's coming forward with a story. He's going to have these 3 witnesses that have actual video footage of the recovered egg-shaped craft.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, and as I shared at that time, Katie barred the door when that comes on. And yes, no one will have any excuses, and that's the point here. That's the point I'm trying to make is we know we don't have to start anew. We have the craft. We have the sensor data. We have the videos, the films. This is just one of many, many videos that are out there. And
not just a video. Not just a video, Alan. Not just a video. There are plenty of videos that have been public that Thomas and I have gone over for a very, very long time now.
No, I
They're not credible. They're not credible. Problem is, people don't believe it because now with AI, you can manufacture whatever kind of video you want. People are not going to buy it. But the video that Ross is in possession of with these tier 1, as Lou mentioned, credible witnesses from the government within the military, there's going to be no doubt. And there's an analogy that I have put that we've discussed on the show for also a very long time now. And as far as evidence is concerned that we're not alone on this planet, and there is an advanced civilization here alongside with us, the government would be in a position where if they came forward to say there was a bolt, nothing more complicated than a simple bolt, nothing more, one bolt, but that bolt was not made by man. It is an alien object here on this planet, and that's all the information that they would release publicly. That is, in essence, opening up Pandora's box. Because the minute that they had to admit anything is not of this earth, that creates a landslide of people asking questions. Well, that means we're not alone. You're going to have to answer more to that. Now, when this video gets released and Ross runs this story on Saturday, the shit is going to hit the fan for the government. They're not going to have any way out, any lying, any obfuscation. It's been going on for over 80 years now. You're going to see the dam is going to burst. This is a very interesting time we're in right now.
I don't disagree with you, Mike. I before you got on, I was sharing the very same thing, that when this video comes out, it's going to be heard around the world. I was sharing as far as other videos that the government has 4K video of what's called the Black Island, and Lou referenced this, about a craft that came up out of the ocean, grabbed a cruise missile they were trying to recover. And that's government video footage as well, which is has great vetting, and it would be undeniable. And there are many other videos. When I'm talking about many other videos, I'm not talking about something someone shot on their cell phone. I'm talking about government photographs, gun cameras, sensor information. They've got this stuff. And,
you mean the infamous 23-minute video that Lou has been talking about for almost a decade now.
Well,
That when he came on the show with me and Thomas, we were discussing that. Someone asked a question, and I was able to explain that video and what it was on behalf of Lou. Yeah, that something like that the government has been in possession of for a very, very long time, but they haven't released any of it.
Yeah, I understand, and I agree with you. They should. Believe me, I completely concur with you. I'm right there. I have no difference at all. I'm just sharing that when Lou shares that we don't know what's in the sky, we do know what's in the sky.
Bingo.
They just won't fess up to it. That's what I'm sharing.
But one thing I have to say about Lue Elizondo talking about everything that he talked about, he came out and said about everything about disclosure and everything, he puts national security above the need for disclosures. So even if Lue Elizondo does get into this new post working for the president, he still has that overly national security mindset that would prevent him potentially from breaking salacious or catastrophic disclosure things forward, because he's thinking about national security before disclosure.
That's true, but I can make a quick counterpoint. I can make a quick counterpoint to that. You heard tonight Donald Trump Jr. talking about we're not alone and that there is a presence here, which means his father is on board with that before the inauguration. Yep. I have a feeling once he comes into office, this stuff is not going to be lied about, covered up like it's been in previous administrations. I think we're going to see a big change. It's going to be something that we haven't seen before, and we're getting a taste of it right now. So I'm very optimistic about what's about to break and what's going to happen after the inauguration.
Because we've been having to rely on Congress to try and get an answer, but Congress can't get their act together. They can't come together. They can't get that uniparty support like the Democrats have. But then if we take a look at what we have coming forward from the executive branch, that's the dam that's getting ready to break, right, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. The dam is going to burst wide open.
Yeah.
And it's about goddamn time.
Yeah.
So, well, the executive branch is the only one, unlike Congress, it has the authority to declassify this stuff and go over the heads of Congress and the Senate. And that's the challenge that we've had for years and years. I believe, based on my experience, that during the Carter administration, if he had taken us, although I honestly didn't support him for president, if they had gotten a second run at the presidency, that he would have used his executive office to release the information. And I go over that in my interviews with Richard Dolan and why I believe that's the case. So, but
you can thank Reagan for preventing his second term, obviously, when that all came out recently.
Well, Carter, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why Carter didn't get elected again, and like I said,
just like Biden
deal with Iran and screwed Carter out of the second term. That all came out. It was a very interesting story. I'm sure you're well aware.
Yeah,
so, but that's ancient history. Right now, we're looking forward to real disclosure coming from the executive branch and all the people that are going to be attached to it.
Now, what I do have up, as we've been talking about this is actually a craft that was recorded in Iraq in 2008, Mike, that really resembles the gimbal. And actually the other craft that was seen over Lake Huron that was shot down, they'll look like that as well. We're getting a 2-for-1 special here.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens after Monday. I'm really optimistic myself that we will get a breakthrough here.
Yeah.
I would temper, speaking about Lou's national security concerns, I would temper that the people looking at this are going to weigh what they can say, because as soon as you come out and say, we have alien technology, I guarantee you that Russia, China, Korea, Japan, Brazil are all going to want in on it. They're all going to say, you can't hold this to yourselves. This is a matter for the entire planet.
Yep.
We all need to get a piece of this. We all need to take a look at this. And there will even be some countries that'll go like, if they have this tech, maybe we should jump first.
Yeah.
I guarantee there are people out there thinking that way. That's just the world we live in. Because if we do, as some people insinuate, that we do have ARVs out there and have gravitational.
No, Dr. Eric Davis recently did an interview with Jesse Michaels, and he has very high security classifications, and he was in a security position within the government. He confirmed that with all the knowledge and information that he had, including, if you remember, the Wilson Davis memo that he was the author of, he came forward and said there is absolutely no ARVs, and we do not have technology like that at all. We can't crack the material science of how they manufacture the alien tech. We're nowhere near that. So,
yes, but he was supposed to be read into a program, and then they didn't read him into it. Okay,
right.
so what program were they going to read him into that he doesn't know about?
It wasn't ARV.
We do have documented evidence that there was an air show, and that at least people there did see what appeared to be an ARV. Or actually,
you're talking about Mark McCandlish? That's an old story, Alan. And and a lot of people have disputed that for a long time now.
And McCandless was shot, supposedly, by his own hand, allegedly, just before he was supposed to speak to Rubio.
Yeah, I understand. But
okay, so
there has never been any evidence to support the claims made by Mark.
Oh, there has been. Now again, don't get me wrong. I'm not this. I would find it's just unimaginable that we have this type of technology and we're not using it to our own benefit, let alone the world's benefit. But would I rule it out? No, because I mean, like yourself, we're people that have seen these craft. Okay, so would I rule out that we might have some rogue pirate cartel that has a half a dozen of these things that they use for, extortion and human trafficking and whatever?
Oh, now we're in Michael Herrera territory, which is a red flag. So I wouldn't go there.
Unless you're Sawan and Sawan says, why are we going after Herrera like that? Because he deserves it.
You see muscle work. Ask him. That's why.
I would not rule anything out because of what I've personally seen. I believe it's highly unlikely, but I would not rule anything out.
Well, until you show me evidence to support and back up any of those claims,
but isn't that what everyone told us? Isn't that what everyone told us? Okay, I've been there, and I've been told until I shake an alien's hand, I don't believe you. Okay, so I'm not going to say to somebody or anybody that what they're sharing with me is far beyond the realm of possibility, and that someone like Kid or Hal or something might be out of the loop, because this government is just too damn big. There are too many closed doors. Could they hide this in plain sight too? Yeah.
So in other words, we have a government that's dealing with overclassification, and we need to fire a third, if not a half, of the people who are part of it. Sounds like what we have coming our way as of Monday.
Well, we're in a good track as of today because they fired our old friend Mike Turner from Ohio.
Wasn't it wonderful?
Yeah, that was the best news I've heard so far.
Well, we got turned down for the select committee, Mike, but then we also learned at the same time that Mike Turner was fired. So it's kind of like, oh, well, but oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what that tells me? That you and I did our job and helped to get his ass fired. With the work that we did. So good. I'm happy. That's the one piece of accomplishment that I was very happy to hear about today.
Talking about an accomplishment, someone in the back who's been very patient has had their hand up for almost 45 minutes. Kron, go ahead.
Greetings, Thomas. Greetings.
Hi,
I just want to say, hey, Mike, how are you? And I just want to say great discussion. 45 minutes of amazing discussion. I just want to bring up a few things. Number one, the whistleblower. Boy, does he have eyes that don't lie. Now, no pun intended on that, but he's a pilot.
He could have thyroid issues. It could be Marty Feldman eyes. You know what I mean?
He's a pilot, and he's paid to have good eyes. His life depends upon it. So him as a first-hand witness is very interesting because, you know, people have been demanding a first-hand witness. And guess what? Now we have it, right? It feels like we're entering an apex in regards to the national media conversation. You know, after this interview, it's as
But wasn't the first-hand witness we got from Jesse Michaels a first-hand witness, or is he kind of in question because of his association with Greer?
Right. Well, it wasn't just his association with Greer. It was a lot of the details of the story that he put out on Jesse Michaels that people saw red flags. So he got called out, and it didn't hold water. His story, his claims. That was the problem. It wasn't credible. He was military, yes, but he wasn't credible with the claims and story that he put out there, which we've seen before, you and I. We've covered it. Yeah. So that was the issue with that. But I'm telling you that Ross's witness that's coming forward, very credible.
So in other words, this picture with DC Muscle Wolf, and I have to go ahead and look at this picture and say, oh my God, DC Muscle Wolf, he's like looking down and saying, oh my God, I've got my perfect bottom.
Yeah, something like that.
Kind of going into that point, and I did want to segue into Greer.
Go to it, my friend.
To say, I'm very curious now that this announcement has been made by News Nation and Ross Coulthart, will there be pressure before this Sunday? Will there be some pressure from different organizations, 3 letters, as far as that video? That I'm very curious about. If that interview comes out and that footage comes out, if that footage comes out, there's no going back. So I'm anticipating, is anyone going to pull the stops? Well, I'll be very curious to see.
Well, you probably are not old enough to remember, but this did happen in the 1960s when, I don't recall his name now. He was heading, he was one of the first ones to push a UFO hearing through Congress, and he was on television.
Ford.
Pardon?
Senator Gerald Ford.
No.
Was that the first UAP hearing in the 60s?
No, this was oh shoot, can't recall his name now. He wrote several books. He formed the first UFO investigative organization before APRO. I don't recall his name, but he was doing a television interview and they just stopped the interview. They just cut him off, and we still don't know what he said during that interview. Might they try something like that? Nothing would surprise me.
Well,
yeah, that won't work
in the age of internet, so it'll be very hard.
I didn't say they'd be successful. I don't put it past them that they can't try, because if Ross said, "Hey, I'm in possession of plutonium and I'm going to bring it to the television station on Saturday night," you think they wouldn't try and stop him? Of course they would. Of course they would. They could. Yeah, I'm saying that this is as hot as plutonium, okay? And don't think that there aren't people out there sweating bullets about this coming out. I didn't know they had a video to go with this until just beginning of this broadcast. That is a whole nother thing. It's not just somebody saying I saw something, because we have hundreds of witnesses, like going back to Jesse Marcel, and he was the head of intelligence.
Going to David Grush, even as recently as David Grush.
Yeah,
this is different.
We have plenty of people that saw something and know something, but video we haven't had before of a spacecraft. Don't think there's not somebody out there going like, we've got to stop this no matter what.
It's an egg-shaped craft that's being recovered, which is typical of what David Grush was talking about, the 33 Magenta craft that was recovered. That shape is classic. You know that, Alan. We've heard many different reports of an egg-shaped craft, and now they have video footage of one being recovered. There's no disputing that.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see it. But so, I'm just sharing. You're dealing with something that's above top secret. It's like saying I'm going to post the plans to a nuclear trigger online. Stop me. Okay? Don't think that there's not people out there that are going to try and do it. There are. You're dealing with above top secret information here. And Lou said on there that it got very dicey, these guys' security. Don't think that they've given up.
Yeah, they're not giving up. But you know what? One of the classic textbook responses from the government, if they fail to stop something coming out, they then try to discredit it after the fact. So don't think that after we see this video footage and hear from these witnesses that they're not going to try to dump a mountain of shit on them to try to discredit them. That's going to come.
They'll simply say it's not true. They'll say that was some type of special return capsule. We've already, with everything that NASA has done over the years, they'll say no, that was just an experimental capsule for a spy mission, and they were sent to get it, and we told them it was a spacecraft. It wasn't really.
So I'll just make my final points. My final points are, as Thomas has noted earlier in the conversation, it's very eerie. This is all happening around the inauguration, and also, and not related to this, but the deal with Hamas is around the inauguration. So there's definite transfers going on right now. And I also want to say, I wonder what Stephen Greer knew that made him want to jump the gun so bad to get ahead of, what was coming out and, lay those stakes to claim. I thought that's very interesting. And then finally, this is actually a question to Alan. Alan, how close do you think we are to order to disorder? That's your specialty. I'm very curious.
Are you talking about chaos, Kron, when the public starts to acknowledge we're not alone?
Entropy.
Well, I could. I think it was the day before yesterday. Richard put out a YouTube video talking about what constitutes proof in an age when we don't believe anything. We have AI influencers now that don't really exist, but have millions of followers that are hawking projects and products online and stuff. And as Mike was saying, with CGI and AI, you can pretty much do anything on the internet, create anything you want. We're born in the West believing in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. That's the first narrative that's ripped away from us once we get a little bit older. And we live in an age where we create tribes that are rigid in their beliefs. Try and tell someone that the vaccine was not safe and effective, or that men can't have babies, or that climate change is a hoax. I live in the Bay Area. You try and do that, and you're going to be strung up.
Well, not anymore. In the next 4 years, if we see that men can't have babies, people are going to be saying yes. What else don't we know?
Yeah. So when this comes out on Saturday, I know people that know me very well, that know me for years, that absolutely won't believe it. They're just going, no, that's not true. It's a psyop. It's fake. They won't believe it. And there are other people that I know that are very devout, religious. I had one woman friend of mine, known for many years, who was almost hysterical when she heard about the drones. What does this mean? Are these aliens? And she was really freaked out by it.
Those aren't aliens, but what we're about to see in a few short days, it will be.
What I'm sharing is, he was asking about, will this create some chaos within the general society? Yeah, it will. There are people that it's one thing to speculate about it and say, yeah, I don't think we're alone, but there's some people that it's just innate territorial or survival or whatever. They're going to freak out. They will. They're going, what do you mean? Aliens can come down here and do anything? And we're not even saying they are aliens, but there are people that are going to interpret it as that, and they don't feel safe now, let alone that there might be millions of.
Well, they don't feel safe if they're getting pulled over in their car after running a red light. That's part of the problem where a lot of the people are. They put up these false borders of feeling safe or not feeling safe. And but it just comes down to is we can't go through life having fear and seeing things with fear. If we're experiencing something, if we're afraid and it's going on, we're not going to be able to process the situation and get through to the other side without getting ourselves in trouble.
I agree with that, but there are people out there where it's just natural. Remember when last time when Trump went over to Korea and people were freaking out about that and Korea's going to nuke us? I literally had people coming to me in my role going, do you think they're really going to nuke us? And
hell no.
I go, no. They wanted a plan to prepare for nuclear fallout. And I go like, look, this isn't going to happen.
But did you hear today NATO came out and was saying we have to prepare for global war at this point?
Yeah, that's been out for some time.
And that came out today, and then yesterday they announced that Russia accidentally cut their trunk to the internet. And when you hear about that, that's never an accident. It's almost like they're setting themselves up to prevent people to come in and try and hack themselves. They're shutting down access from the people with inside because they're getting ready for something nasty.
I personally believe that someone in one of the Western nations did cut their line. It's like saying they blew up their own pipeline.
Unless the only reason, if from a network security standpoint, if you want to limit access to your infrastructure, people's ability to hack it, if you go ahead and cut down the access coming in, it's actually a method of self-defense.
They're not like the West. When Putin came in, they got rid of all the online computers and they literally used typewriters.
Oh yeah,
I kid you not. They're not all their spy stuff. They do it old-fashioned. They're not. They won't even use the internet. So to cut their internet line and everything that means is in regards to banking and all that would be a mess for them. Somebody did that as a provocation.
I know, but don't forget we've had the European trunk to the internet cut in the Black Sea, and then also we also had recently another major trunk that was cut between Taiwan and the United States. Was also shut down.
The Black Sea one, that was supposed to be China did that. They claimed.
And they're thinking the one that happened also, of course, in the around Taiwan was probably China as well. But there's a pattern going on. And, you know, when you start seeing a pattern, either someone is taking advantage of that pattern and adding into it so they don't get caught, or it's the same pattern. Kind of like what we've been seeing with UFOs lately.
For quite some time here, that at least the last year, there have been every attempt to provoke military conflict in Europe. Every attempt. They've worked hard at it to bring those missiles in to strike Russia deep into Russia. We're lucky they didn't go nuclear at that point.
Oh yeah.
So there is that provocation. And that linked to the financial system, the whole globe is in financial hurts right now. And that's another whole conversation. But in regards to the ontological shock that we're not alone, is that going to disrupt certain segments of the society? Absolutely, it will.
You know, let's go ahead and, you know, but I have a feeling this is something that could come to the public on a Thursday or a Friday. Let it go the weekend. Let it go over the weekend, and everybody is kind of over it, getting ready for the new thought paradigm coming in and going back into work because they still have to feed their family. They still have to pay their housing and everything else that goes along with it. So even if there is something big that happens, people know they still have to continue going on unless it's like a global war kind of a thing.
Did you forget what happened just a couple years ago with the pandemic? How easily were people swayed concerning that? They just did a 180. When that first came out, a friend of mine asked, well, how long do you think this lasts? I said, within 2 weeks, people will be tearing the government down.
Well, here's the thing.
Run around their houses.
Okay, I watched it happen real time in late December 2019 when I was watching the protests going on in Hong Kong. How it went from a lot more, the bigger protests and things going on, lots of videos on Reddit, unbelievable amount of videos on Reddit. And it went from that to all of a sudden having some of those videos getting more and more shut down by the police and all the police thing, and people getting hauled away and showing the trains going by with all the people inside screaming as you can see the metal plates over the windows so they couldn't get out like in Nazi Germany. But it went from that to all of a sudden showing an old lady walking down the street, going back and forth with her bags of groceries, and all of a sudden she gets to a point, and then she falls over sideways. And then white vans come in from the sides, and they go ahead and put up these like barriers so you couldn't see what was going on. That's when information was starting to leak through the Great Wall of China, and you could see what was actually happening. You fast forward a little bit, you had people walking around in the hospitals, right? Showing how there's just all these dead people everywhere and what was happening and all the different things. And then you also had them go ahead and tracking, showing, look at this. We have all these different, what was it? What did they have? They had the places where, you're burning people, right? You're just basically going ahead and incinerating all the different people, and from all those different locations, those chimneys were going crazy. And if then correlated that to the maps showing the amount of pollution in the air, it was blooming over all these different areas where they were literally burning all of the bodies for what was going on. And then they showed that they were building all these mega hospitals in these places and putting all of them in place. And these weren't hospitals because a hospital doesn't have bars on the windows and a door that only goes out one way. And they were building all these mega quote unquote hospitals, but they were literally prisons that they were taking people and locking them into if they had sign of what went on. It was crazy.
What I'm sharing, we didn't have any of that in the United States.
No,
and people lost their minds.
Well,
and to this
we
day,
lost our minds to a degree, but you just had to realize what it was, what worked against it. You know, our approach to going ahead. I got to be careful because of YouTube stuff. So we got to talk generals. There were alternative, if you want to call it, approaches to mitigating what it was, and all those were shut down in favor of copywritten shows that we would watch on television, if you know what I mean.
What I'm sharing, Thomas, is how it affected people mentally to this day. There's not a day that I don't go out.
All right, can I say this? Can I say this first? Can I say this first? Sure. I got it in early 2020. Some of the first cases in the United States, Washington State here, and it went on from what it was and then turned into COVID toes for my age because I had a round of really high dose of MMR vaccine, which shuts it down but changes how the virus affects with a lot of different people. Put that into it. I then fought with long-term COVID where I was on chemo meds. I was on high doses of prednisone for about 3.5 to 4 years. I've never recovered from it. And that's just from getting it. Now, I never went and never did any of that because of, I felt like the Chinese people, when something like that gets so developed so quickly, you don't trust it.
I'm sharing how it affected the mental stability of the country as a whole. Okay, and we're talking about a viral infection, not aliens from another galaxy that we don't know what they're here for.
Here's the thing is, what was different was people were having loved ones and people that they know and people that they were related to people within her sphere. It killed that. Absolutely 100% was a result in my mom dying the way she died. And the last 6 months of her life were absolute hell. And I never, ever would wish that on anyone. But it happened when she got her first round of it. Within a couple days, it frickin' took her down.
Again, I'm not sharing anything about how the actual. I'm talking about the ontological shock of something of a threatening nature,
right? So,
like a pandemic. Okay, and
right.
All you have to do is say, even at the early part when we didn't know exactly what it was, I knew these crazy guys in the
we
DOD
didn't have Twitter then. We didn't have Twitter then. Like we have it now, right? That was the thing, was all of our abilities to talk about it. Everything was getting shut down if you didn't go ahead and adopt.
You don't think they're going to shut this down? You don't think they're going to censor people talking about this? As soon as someone gets online and starts talking about their abduction, you think they're going to let them do that? No.
They're going to discredit any claims that come forward. That's typical textbook of how the government.
But Mike, that's what they've been doing forever, right?
Because they don't, and people that have never paid attention to this are going to go, well, what about all that abduction stuff? Is that real? Can they really come in your house at night and grab you and take you to their planet? Blah blah blah. You don't think that's going to affect someone?
Can they really put me in a state of mind where I don't care about anything and whatever they say or suggest, I just go along with it because they put you into a different state of consciousness, and if that's the case, but that's been going on for a long time. So we may have our laws and rights and say they shall not do that, shall not do that. But if these are the ones who are actually have their hands in creating us, they shall do whatever the fuck they want, really.
Well, what I'm sharing is the ontological effect, because that was the question. Will this disrupt certain sectors of the society? That's how I understood the question. And I'm saying yes. There are some people that are going to freak the hell out. They freaked the hell out over the pandemic. Good, as much as the fact, I was very fortunate. I didn't know anybody that died from it. Okay, so but when it first came out, I'm going like, yeah, they screw with a lot of crazy crap out there. Airborne rabies and stuff. We don't know what this is. And I was sharing with everyone, man, you should do this, you should do that, blah blah blah. And as I learned more, I go like, no, this is not what they're proposing it to be. Nonetheless, I was in a position with some education about it, so it didn't affect me ontologically. I wasn't freaked out. This wasn't the Black Plague. We're talking aliens from another planet or another dimension. I've dealt with both. You have. I'm talking about the person that doesn't know.
Well, I know, but coming from someone who dealt with both, going ahead and having a cool idea that there's something bigger going on around us, all that's going to do is unite humanity, which I believe our government is against, right?
I don't. I don't believe it will unite humanity. There are certain beliefs that this is not going to go well with them.
It's the one
they're going to go like, no, these are demons. I've heard this already. I mean, this is
Alan, it's the one foreboding reason. I can tell you how many times I'll say it. I haven't said it a lot, but it's one of the main reasons I'm here is I have to make sure this doesn't become another religion because we've already been screwed by enough. We don't need another one. We don't.
Oh, sure. And you're going to have those people too. You definitely,
they're already
some
out
people
there.
out there that'll look at this as this is like a second coming or something. But I'm just sharing. Yes, there'll be disruptions within. That's what the government is afraid of. They're afraid of losing authority. They're afraid of, hey, what do these other guys in Alpha Centauri, think of politics? Or everyone's talking, when the aliens come, we're going to have free energy. No, you're not going to get free energy.
But a lot of the conversation is gone, Alan, saying, yeah, they may be from different places, but depending on how much we're not seeing these things coming in from other places, it looks like they're here more than anything. We're dealing with stuff that's already on planet, not dealing with something that's coming in just visiting us on a trip on an average Sunday afternoon.
Well, like everybody, I would presume most of the audience is familiar with this topic, with the phenomenon and its history and the people involved in it. And we have a different perspective about it than the average Joe. Okay? To them, their education is, Independence Day. Okay? That's how they look at it. And if you tell them that we're not alone, boy, that's to some, not everybody, but to many, they're going to freak out. I mean,
I guess we just need to tell. I guess we need to.
I hope I'm wrong.
I guess we need to remind people to go outside and look up at the stars and how big everything else out there is, and to say, wow, we are the only thing ever anywhere up to this point. There may be things well beyond us, and it's just the order of life. Look at all the things below us.
But we don't want immigration to many of the Western countries. And now we're talking about aliens inhabiting the same space as us?
No, but Alan, all we have to do probably is just look in the mirror and we can see, wow, look, there's a hybrid. It may come down to that. And if that's what we're at,
there are people that are going to reject that. Again, I don't disagree with you. We're on the same, same level here. I completely agree.
I see a lot of people on Twitter still arguing all the time that the Earth is flat, and the center of Antarctica is this paradise.
Yeah, they've got the Hollow Earth guys.
Yeah, well, let me play devil's advocate for a second, and I'll back up what Alan is saying. And you and I, Thomas, did the last show talking about pushback on the political divide in this country with the incoming administration. So if half of our country is divided as much as it is from one side to the other, and they still haven't accepted the election as it turned out with a mandate, and we still, you and I, get pushback as a result of that anytime we mention the incoming administration. Alan has a point that there are going to be people who are not going to accept this at face value and are going to push back. That's true to a degree, but how long will that last? That's up to the individual. But there is going to be a degree of pushback. He's not wrong to make that point. We've seen it with something like the election.
Yeah, that's what's been holding back all the Western governments. It's not that they don't know; they do know. They have known. They know what's in the sky. They know the history probably better than we do. It's the aftershock. It's the questions that come after you say we're not alone. That's not going to stop with that. They're going to want to know more. Everyone's going to want to know more, and you're going to have to say no. Yes, we're not alone, but we're not showing you the spaceship. Yes,
well, that won't fly that long.
We're not sharing the technology.
Yeah, well, Thomas was right when he said once that happens, the dam is going to burst.
Yeah, so. Well, and what happens when a dam bursts, you get a lot of people get hurt.
You get good and bad.
They're going to be people out there. I guarantee that will not accept it. They're going to basically, like I said, they lost their minds over a pandemic. They're going to lose their minds.
Yeah, but we get a lot of shifts in society where one part of society isn't willing to accept a particular thought construct of another part of society, but we're beyond that. This is actually going ahead and potentially, when there is existential proof showing that we have this kind of interaction going between us and this other civilization that's around us, or civilizations that are around us. It's just, well.
You're going to have a lot of mentally unstable people who are going to take their own lives instead of facing the truth.
But that happens with so many different parts of life as it is today, and the complexities that it is. If anything, it's just going to stabilize some areas, destabilize some others, but it's just part of reality, I think we can all put our big boy pants on and accept.
I think that's very well said.
Did you watch the last election? you again, we're talking about people that believe. I'm not saying these people. We've got tropes in the culture that believe that men can have babies. Okay, that's the kind of thinking you're dealing with. Okay, these people are not going to. They're people.
You mean people? You mean a large mindset that went to the university of didn't earn it? Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm not pointing towards a political party or anything. No.
I'm just talking about a mindset, an ego. Basically, it's an ego. I'm not wrong. I never believed in aliens, and there's no life outside this planet, and I'm not wrong, and I'm not going to accept it. And then there are other people that this is going to crash their faith. Now, to me, I'm a Christian. It doesn't affect my faith whatsoever. To me, I find it wholly compatible. What happens off this planet,
it actually further explains and gives credibility to the stories, but we just didn't know the big picture.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Bible is not a historical documentary.
No, okay. I like the ancient stories from India more than I like them from Europe. Just saying.
Yeah, but I'm sharing there are people that are going to have big trouble with this, and there's definitely sectors in the population that are going to have big trouble with this. You know, the energy sector, financial sector, the medical sector. They're going to have problems with this. Now,
it's old money. It's old names, old money, old organizations. And if there is that quote unquote new world order and it comes from UFOs, bring it on.
Well, yeah, you've got to pull the bandage off at some point, and it will right itself. It's just like going from the horse and buggy to automobiles. But it took 200 years for Copernicus's theories to be accepted in Europe. So will this
go a lot faster than 200 years, Alan?
Wasn't there a religion in the way of that from being accepted, though, Alan?
Yes, there was.
Well, Copernicus was asked by the church to straighten up the calendar. He came up with the theory of hey guys, to be honest with you, it's the Earth that goes around the sun, and he wrote it up, and it was published. But you're talking about a time when, to make a large volume, you had to kill 300 sheep.
He also was put under house arrest for his trouble.
No, that was Galileo who was put under house arrest, not Copernicus.
Right. Yeah, but the point is that's how the church dealt with revelations like that.
Well, Galileo was put under house arrest because he dissed the Pope. The Pope used to attend Galileo's lectures. He was a big fanboy of Galileo. And one day the Pope was out, and one of the pupils in the class said, "Well, what do you think the Pope thinks of your theories?" And Galileo flippantly said, the Pope doesn't understand this stuff. And that was all it took. And they said, okay, that you're, house arrest for you. Okay. So it's just like Thomas mentioned, people that think the Earth is flat. Well, where'd that come from? Because the Greeks already had measured the circumference of the Earth. They knew the Earth was round. Protagoras had gotten all the theorems.
Isn't like the measurement of the Earth actually worked into the actual dimensions of the pyramid?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Protagoras, who is credited with the math, actually learned it. We know for certain because he wrote about it, and there's papyrus putting this all together, showing the math that the Egyptians had created. That's where he got all his trigonometry, was from Egypt. But anyway, where it came, the first history book written in the United States, same guy who wrote what's the Headless Horseman story? I can't think of his name now. With Ichabod Crane.
Yeah.
American author. He wrote the first history book for public schools. And in that book, he wrote that Columbus wanted to discover America because they believed the Earth was flat, which was just historical. No, not true. They knew the debate between him and the council at the church was that not that the Earth was flat, but that the distance between Europe and the New World, or what they believed was China, was much further than he thought, because they knew the Greek math. Greek math said it was much further. He's saying no, it's shorter, because he had read stories about what actually were people who had traveled to Greenland, and he thought that was actually China, and so he thought it was much further. Come to find out, no, the church was right. It was much further away, and his voyage almost failed because it was so far away. They were running out of provisions and stuff. But by the time they got to the United States, or got to Cuba, actually. So, again, I'm sorry, I can't recall that author, famous American author who wrote the first book, wrote in it that he wanted to prove the world wasn't flat, which wasn't true. Yeah. But that's something that has stuck. And you ask anybody, why did Columbus want to take his voyage? Oh, it's proved the world wasn't flat. Everybody still sticks at it. It's not there.
No, he had a huge pile of cash and said, go find something. And he was going to go find something through Explorer.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And he was very well read. Of all the ancient explorers. He probably had access to many of the Perry map, which shows Antarctica. He probably had access to many maps that we don't exist anymore. And he had a number of stories of people that had traveled, we believe today, to Greenland, maybe even Iceland, and he thought that was China. So he's going, oh no, the Greeks were wrong. It's very close. We can get there. I just need these ships.
Yeah, he was also screwing Queen Isabella.
I digress from the topic. I'm just sharing that
he was screwing Queen Isabella, and she funded his ships so her husband would not find out, the King of Spain. So she sent him off to look for the new land. So there's always more to it than meets the eye, Alan. You know how that goes.
Yeah, what I'm sharing is that when it comes to big ticket items like this, the Earth's flat. Is the Earth revolve around the sun?
Right.
Are we not alone?
Right.
People don't change overnight.
That's okay, as long as there's a slow adoption to the new reality where we're at. As long as we can start at least 1%, it's a growth, but I think we're well beyond 1% at this time.
It has to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Just
it will happen.
The way all these other things had to happen. This has to happen, good or bad.
Oh, yeah.
You got to take the Band-Aid off. And who knows? Maybe we've been here before. I mean, when we look at some of the things that are coming out about history.
Repeating itself.
When we look at the ancient Egyptians, and now we're looking at with the Scan Vase project that Ben is doing on Uncharted X.
Yeah.
Who made those vases? I mean, there was definitely a high technology at some point, at least 12,000
But how many times
ago.
does it happen? Because there's a great reset that happens every 12,000 years. And look at the clock. It's been about 12,000 years.
Yeah. So maybe we've been here before.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there was a time in ancient history when we knew we weren't alone. And, we've forgotten that. But for this generation,
here's the good news.
It's going to be pulling the Band-Aid off, and some people are going to be screaming to high heavens. They will.
Here's the good news as I see it.
I wouldn't prevent it for the world to be. It has to happen.
It's going to happen, like it or not. Not like anybody has a choice, to be honest with you, at this point. It's coming, and we know when, and we know what, and we'll see what happens afterwards. But here's the good news for our audience. Thomas and I will be here to help them get through every step of the way with this as it unfolds. It's going to be a very interesting year, and our good friend Ross already said publicly, 2025 is the year that the shit's going to hit the fan. So we're looking forward to it. and it's going to be a hell of a journey. Alan.
After a year like 2024, which was the year to buckle up,
right?
We didn't get much. So hopefully 2025.
Well, you know, that's a matter of perspective. Having been involved in this for decades, really, it was an extraordinary year.
The year before that was extraordinary. 2023 was phenomenal. 2024, we a lot of the momentum we got in 2023 was pushed back and pulled back by the military-industrial complex, by Sean Kirkpatrick and stuff for like 4 or 5 months.
If you look at all the conversations that were online, hundreds, thousands of conversations that kept this topic alive, we didn't have that in the 70s or 80s. You might have 1 or 2 stories in a year about the then UFO subject.
But just watching in current years, we can say we've had a big lead up of what things going on, and then 2024 was kind of a drop down of where it could have been. Start of 2025, we're already starting going up. So it's good momentum after kind of some things happening, but more flat than what we've been used to.
Yeah. So if I had to sum it up, I would say that 2023 was the year of David Grush. And as much as I hate to admit this, I'd have to say 2024 was the year of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between the two. Wouldn't you agree, Thomas?
I would say it's the year, Mike, they put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Exactly.
They tried. Yeah.
They succeeded in a bunch of different ways. They succeeded in a bunch of ways, right?
Yeah, they couldn't do it like they did with Blue Book. They just didn't. It wasn't a matter. Back then, we had 3 network televisions and PBS, which really doesn't count. And they controlled it. Newspapers were local. Nobody was reading the New York Times in LA. You just read your local paper. That was it. So it was much easier to control. Today,
and
they can't
Thomas,
control.
We have people with questions in the back there. We have a hand up from Sharky. If you want to take his question.
Well, let's do it.
Conversation.
Sharky, you've been very patient. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Thank you. This is a great show. Really mean it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, real quick about Christopher Columbus. There's a lot of rumors about him. Real quick, the Knights Templar symbol. Hopefully he was a Knights Templar. He's supposedly one of the last Templars. There's a lot of things with the Roslin Chapel I don't want to get into.
With Portugal, yeah, that he flew under the Templar flag. That's a very complicated
I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, they knew the New World was here. That's the basic point, I guess, I'm trying to make.
Yeah, in fact, what do you call it? The guys that are up there digging the treasure in Canada. What's
Oak Island?
What's the name of that? Yeah, they found that one cross, which does look very. It does date back to that time. Maybe there was a Templar expedition that landed in the new land. There's some consideration that the Templars escaped with their treasure to the States. Who knows? We don't know. Correct. We're still uncovering that history, and it might be that some did. We just don't know.
Right. Well, the Roslin Chapel, actually, I could get into that, but there's a lot of indigenous symbols from the Roslin Chapel that was not European.
And stuff. Yeah, they have tobacco leaves in there and stuff, and
which were hints because the builder of the Roslin Chapel was a Templar, I think, potentially. Yeah. Anyway,
and there's that stone. I believe it's from Michigan that speaks of a Templar expedition. It's scribed on it, so we don't know. And there's also a tower that had Templar architecture found on the East Coast, suspected. So we don't know. But they're very interesting historically, very much.
Yeah, I just wanted to not necessarily ask a question, but talking about the alien agenda, because there's definitely an alien agenda, and I think Eisenhower's daughter had talked about an agreement with the aliens. Maybe the tall grays, I don't know, but something along those lines. And it just seems to line up with what's going on currently today with the androgyny of the world, just transsexuals, those sort of things. But don't you think it's maybe where the Masons and the secret societies are trying to form a new world order underneath, this alien agenda, because it seems like they're accepting the societal and, civilizational changes in that way. I know I'm kind of being very broad, but I believe that like we're paving a way for some sort of an alien agenda. It certainly seems like that.
Well, some people, have shared maybe that, and in fact, my friend Richard Dolan has suggested this at times, that possibly aliens are involved in what's going on culturally here, and maybe this mirrors their society. I would postulate that any alien society is exactly that, alien, and that our culture is foreign to us as an anthropologist going to West Africa and studying gorillas. That they likely, don't share much in common with us culturally. Certainly not from a an androgynous standpoint. I've certainly spoken to many people that were abducted that claimed that they saw both men and women aliens, that had same physiotypes. So, of course.
Well, I just not to cut you off, but an alien interview covers it, and how their bodies are, and how they're really almost organic bodies that their soul almost incarnates in some way. So I think it's really interesting that there is some sort of an alien agenda, perhaps, with just so many scientific breakthroughs, gene editing, for example, all sorts of things that will come about in the years, maybe hundreds of years. But it just seems like we're getting information from the aliens with technology, with so many different things. That's how we've progressed over the last 50 to 70 years. It's pretty obvious we're getting secret information from some source in some way.
Well, I've never been of the mind that it's only one alien race coming here. There's just too many different types that are clearly defined. Now we know the most common ones are the Greys, the Nordics, and the lizards, and the what's the other one? The mantis. But there's hundreds. There's hundreds. Over the years, I've spoken to abductees that were very credible, some military, and describe different things. And they would come up again, other people from, because when I was working with APRO, we were getting information. We were the only ones doing it at the time, and we were getting information from all over the world. And people in different parts of the world were describing similar alien beings. So I don't think there's any single alien race with a single agenda that would manipulate us. I've always felt that humans as a whole, if anybody doesn't think that rich, powerful individuals in the world don't get together to exert their will on the population, they haven't read history. This has been going on for years and years. They have a new tool now with the digital technology that hasn't worked well in China. They've really refined digital tyrannical behavior in China, and they monitor their population up and down, but they're having all kinds of problems there. So I really attribute the failings, the cultural failings and political failings, really to poor human behavior and not alien. I think they would do better than this.
Just one other quick thing. I really appreciate you guys taking my comments here. I would just say, the movie Avatar, for example, they almost want people to live this Avatar life within technology. And so I think that's kind of very much upon maybe an alien agenda of some sort, that they want to dumb us down, in a Big Brother society where we're avatars in another world, artificial life, which is kind of like a life they live, for example. You know what I mean? Perhaps.
Yeah,
you know?
interesting point, Sharky. But I just want to say that to Alan's point about the rich and powerful people influencing the public. Thomas, I sent you a DM. We have a short breaking news video that we can play on this show. Those rich and powerful people who are currently living in Malibu, California, are all on fire and burning to death. You could put the video up on your DM that I sent you.
Yeah, I've got that, but I have to get this across to a browser where I can show it. Give me a second.
Yeah, it's breaking news about the rich and powerful and the effects that they're having currently. It's happening as we speak right now. They're all on fire. They're all burning to death.
That's horrible to hear. Let me go ahead and bring this up. Give me 1 second. Distract us. Or here we go. All right.
Yeah,
so
I don't mean the homes or their property.
No. That's okay. This is coming from Roz Alerts. This is someone that we both subscribe to. Breaking.
Correct.
Yeah, Mike, you notice that if they do a pound sign breaking, makes it turn blue.
Mm-hmm.
Hint. Emergency crews are responding to reports of multiple people that are on fire.
Yes, sir.
Currently, emergency crews and other emergency personnel are responding to a 911 call in Malibu, California, after receiving reports of multiple people on fire. The excuse of the incident is still under investigation, and authorities are working to determine how it happened. The number of individuals affected remains unclear, as this is a developing situation.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's
play the audio.
Let's
we have
play
911 dispatch.
Station code 3 response needed, ran 904.
Hold on, here we go. All the way up.
Attention Lost Hill Station code 3 response needed, ran 904 914S 3554 Decker Canyon Road in Malibu. Informant lives at Lowe, can see people on fire at the end of Decker Edison Road. Tag is 126, Lost Hills unit in 1 or less. Lost Hills unit. Attention Lost Hill Station code 3 response needed, ran 904 914S 3554 Decker Canyon Road in Malibu.
Informant lives at Lowe, can see people on fire at the end of the. All right.
That's breaking news, and it's horrible. But
yeah,
it's involving people that are very well known to the public.
The fires are going to be getting up to the winds that are coming in. You know, the Santa Anas.
Up to 100
miles an hour coming up soon. So
I lived down in. I used to live in San Clemente.
Yeah.
And I believe it was in '97 we had the Laguna Hills fire.
Yeah.
Very similar, 60-foot flames, and we came very close to having to be evacuated. We could see the flames coming down the.
You probably had the flame tornadoes then too.
It was.
Yeah.
You could feel the heat, and the ash coming down was as big as your thumbnail. It covered cars like snow. It was, and then of course after that we had some torrential rains. We had mudslides. It was a mess. It's quite it's a very sad situation. It's going to take decades, I kid you not, for them to recover, because you don't have. It's just not a matter of rebuilding homes. You have to rebuild infrastructure.
Right,
the gas lines are gone. The roads are gone.
Have you heard the latest?
Electricity is gone.
I guess there was new legislation or something put out there by the governor of California that if people want to sell their land to developers, meaning they can't afford to go ahead and rebuild their homes based on the situation because they lost their insurance, they've now been banned from selling their land to try and recoup something coming out of it. It's sad.
Yeah,
California.
It's going to be a horrible challenge. And these are some of the things I know we're talking about. You know, Saturday this video is going to hit and it's going to change the world. Blah blah blah. The administration is going to be hit every way from Sunday with what's going on. You have an enormous financial crisis that no one is dealing with. It's a worldwide crisis.
Oh, yeah.
You've got this situation going on in California, which will affect the entire nation and shortly our friends in Canada, Mexico, and Europe. because
Well, we
it's
had
gonna
this go
really
on. We
mess
had
up
it down in
supply.
North Carolina, South Carolina. We had it in Georgia. The parts of Florida, everything where they've gotten wiped out. So we're just getting bigger areas and more swaths that have been destroyed in other ways. I mean, because in these areas, they've had everything burned down, but parts of what we had in the southeast, I mean, literally water just came through and just destroyed anything that was in its path.
California is different because it services 80% of everything that comes into this country. That's the huge difference.
Right.
And just last year, new legislation prevented 80% of independent truckers from entering California. These are the people that used to bring lumber and supplies from the Midwest and the manufacturers there. They can no longer work in California. And to work in California at all, you have to be a member of a union, and your truck can't be any older than 2019. Right. And they want all trucks to be electric by 2035. These are all challenges that are going to impact the supply chain in California. And that supply chain, it goes out to the rest of the country. We had the backup during the pandemic. I can't tell you how challenging that was. The supply chain hasn't come back from that, let alone we haven't seen the impact that this is going to have now.
Yeah.
And again, when we're talking about rebuilding, you're talking about having to bring lumber and wire and concrete and asphalt and stuff from other parts of the country to California. And that's after the Coastal Commission says, okay, guys, you can start building.
Right, but
now,
apparently they've said that they've taken any environmental reviews or anything that would be in their way to go ahead and rebuild, and he shut that down. Do you think he'll be successful?
No, because you have both state and federal. And you have all the environmental attorneys that are going to fight it tooth and nail all the way to the Supreme Court. I know of a company who, I don't want to say the name because I don't have permission, but back in '84, they had two properties, one built in Laguna Niguel, one built in Half Moon Bay. Environmentalists burned the one in Half Moon Bay down to the ground, 1984. Now, that property already had Coastal Commission permission and federal environmental permission to build. Already had it. But it was burned down, and guess what? They had to start all over again. It was 20 years later before they could pour the new foundation. 20 years. Okay? It's not just fighting the Coastal Commission and the federal environmental department. It's about fighting the Sierra Club. It's about fighting all the environmental lawyers that they've got dollar signs. They'll hold this up as long as they can. And they know the longer they hold it up, the more money they'll make. Yep. And they will. They'll challenge it up and down California. And I really do feel sorry for these people because it's going to impact them. I mean, everyone thinks, oh, the rich people. No, there's a lot of people that are living in friggin' one-room bedroom apartments there on the coast. It's not all, wealthy movie stars. There are a lot of people that have been there many years. There are people that have lived their entire life there.
There are people that bought their houses there 40, 50 years ago, and they got them for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now they're worth millions, but it's the house that they've lived in their whole life.
Where I lived in San Clemente, there were homes there that people originally bought, I kid you not, for $30,000 back,
Wasn't Nixon, didn't Nixon
60s.
live in San Clemente in the end?
Pardon?
Did Nixon live in San Clemente? Someone lived in San Clemente.
He lived right down the street from me.
I thought so.
He lived right down the street from me. But it's a beautiful area. I couldn't afford to live down there anymore. It's a very expensive area now. But there are people along that coast in Malibu and along that whole area along LA. There are a lot of people there that are not wealthy celebrities. And a lot of the celebrities aren't wealthy either, as I'm sure you've heard in the news. People like Jim Carrey and Harrison Ford and stuff. They're still doing movies just to keep their private planes.
Right.
But,
well, when money comes, money goes. When you spend a lot of money, you have to earn a lot of money.
Yeah, constantly, particularly for lifestyles like that. But
exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be getting, before they can lay the first lumber, they're going to have to rebuild the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to get power into there. They're going to have to build roads into there. Those roads are gone. That asphalt is nothing but dust now. There are no curbs. It's all gone. You're going to have to go in there and build all new roads, lay new pipes, all the internet connections that were underground, all the street lights, all that has to go up before you can start construction.
So last question of the night I have for you, Alan.
Sure.
Before we wrap up the show, you were in California, so you're familiar with it. How do you think, with this breaking news that we just covered, how is it that so many people can catch fire at the same time? How do you think that happened?
Arson. If that's actually what they saw, if they weren't looking at someone setting up effigies as they set on fire, but possibly a gas pipe explosion would be another suggestion, because we've had many of them down there. I've even seen them, go up while news reporters were online. Or gas pipe explosions are very common in situations like this. There's vaults. All the way the gas lines here in San Francisco area are all made of terracotta.
Yeah,
they're
but I can almost say it can almost be people setting other people on fire just for what's going on. There's been a lot of horrible people going ahead and dealing with the fires in the wrong way, and you never know where social media could take it, right, Mike?
Oh, that's right. Well, Thomas, didn't you and I cover on the last show that they were arresting a homeless man for setting fires?
Yeah, that was fires, but we were just talking about potential people going around and launching people and setting them on fire as they're moving along. We'll find out.
That was the Linwood arsonist, and not shockingly for California law, they have released him.
Yeah.
They said there wasn't probable cause to hold him.
Of course not.
When they saw him lighting fires and they arrested him, he had a torch in his possession. They said it wasn't probable cause. I don't know what law school they went to, but
exactly.
Well, Cal State, maybe.
It's hard to say. I'll be interested to see what happened in this case, but as Mike was saying, you got caught. Look at the poor woman that was set on fire on the subway there in New York.
Maybe USC Berkeley, maybe Cal State in Pasadena.
What about it?
Just saying where they went to school.
Well, I'll be interested to see what this is about. It would be a very unusual situation. Either, like I said, I suspect that somebody was where they shouldn't have been, and it's like someone trying to save someone drowning. They see someone catches on fire, their friend goes to save them, they catch on fire. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
We will. That's very good. Thank you very much, Alan. We appreciate the conversation and all the information that you brought to the show tonight.
I hope everyone got their questions answered. I know I know myself, I'm kind of long-winded. I'm sorry if you didn't get your answers.
No, I think we got it. We got that and so much more.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's been a phenomenal conversation tonight, Mike.
Oh, I know. It was amazing.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I really do believe we're all on the same page. I really do. It's going to be an interesting weekend and an even more interesting year. And I think everyone should buckle up. We're in for a wild ride.
Have you been watching all the confirmations? So freaking interesting. Seeing the kind of questions that Trump's cabinet has been getting. It's been almost entertaining.
Kabuki theater.
Yes. Exactly. Mike, it's great having you here, my friend.
Oh, no, thank you. It was a hell of a show tonight. And a lot of interesting news. And you know what? I'm going to say it again for the audience. You and I are going to take the win on getting Mike Turner shit-canned. We played a hand in that, and I'm very happy for the success that happened today.
Couldn't have happened to a better guy.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's right. So do you think for this new year, 2025, with what we see starting to come out early on, that we're going to strap in or strap on? Which way do you see that going, in your opinion, Thomas?
Here's the thing. If you strap in too early, you could be subject to the strap-on. Got to be careful. I am willing to go ahead and ride the edge and fucking hold on for my life. I'm not ready to strap in completely yet. Are you?
No, sir, I'm not.
No.
I'm with you. But we'll be there every step of the way, so it'll be fun.
Oh my
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yes.
There you go. Good answer, Alan. I like that one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great evening. Great time with friends. I'll do it. I'll do it anyway. Go ahead and hate me for it. But you know what? There are some people here that I want to thank out. This is what I do. I enjoy it because I enjoy the people who come to the show. I want to thank $70 million Man X, A Husk, Amiga Rules. Thanks for coming out, everybody. Appreciate you being here. Amiga Rules, BW Broom, Bad Daddy, Brian Pemble. Where have you been and out in the back, my friend? We had CEO Videos, Country Carpenter, Craig Smith. Go ahead, break up their names and people can see whose names I'm reading from, so they can appreciate what I go through. All right, let's do this. We were just at Country Carpenter. I want to thank Craig Smith, Dana H. We've got Dawn. We've got Edie. We've got Ed Zachary. Eddie's been around along with L1 Hubbard. Thanks for coming out, Mr. Eli McGinnis. We also had Eric Roth and the Gurus. Firefly's been here along with Francis Tremblay. Would you look at that? Geraldine has been around along with Great Awakening. Hemi God, Howling Husky. Woo. Sorry, Mocha's upstairs somewhere. Oh my God, I can make her act like a husky so repeatedly. Best thanks, Hugo Garcia, for coming out along with Izzy Snoozin. I like that one. You got me there. Jake Falder, James Brown, Jason Brown, J-Cat. Jeff has been here along with Jeff Monge, John Mooner. Good to see you, Mr. Mooner. Donnie UFO, Kathy Kelly Burton, those forever piercing blue eyes. Latro's been here along with Marcus and the Mandels. We've seen Mary, Megan Betts, Michael Golden, Mr. Catfish 2100, also known as Europe to Europe Europe. I see Michael Barry, Nancy Kuzmano, Omar Alia, close enough. Paul Demond, FaZe Will, Rabbit Leader 230, Brainstorm Hunter, Rebecca Curl, Rough Ready. Also want to thank where to go, Sam Wallace, Solaris 142, Space Coast Flights, Sprightly Sprites, Gemstone Crystal, Mineral Magic's been here along with Demisha Bertrand, all the way from Washington State. Let's also thank Terrence Bruce, the G5 Studio, Tiger Town, Toxic Revenger, True Seeker, and Yankee 58. But it's not just about our friends who have been in the chat. That's why it means it's been our friends who have been in the back with us. Thank you for coming in tonight, Alan. It's been wonderful.
My pleasure.
The audience has loved everything you had to say. We talked about a lot of different things, but it was cool to start, we're mixing in, not just talking about UFOs, but everything else. And, you had a great perspective on what's happening in your home state.
Well, thank you. I my heart goes out to the people that have lost their homes.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's a horrible thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just one of those things. And Mike, thank you for coming out tonight, my friend.
Well, my pleasure. It's a hell of a show and great conversation with Alan.
Oh, yeah.
It was nice having him here. And a lot of interesting news that was covered today. Really, really interesting.
Some stuff happened yesterday. Some things happened today. And it was just too much stuff adding up to the pressure, what's going on. And I was like, screw it, let's do it.
No, you're right. It's, why we're here.
Oh, yeah.
And it was definitely valuable information to cover. And I still am really happy about Mike Turner being shit canned out of office. We'll take the win, Thomas.
And I think we're one of the last true UFO variety shows out there.
Oh, yeah. The only one.
Oh, you better believe, my friend. And if I may say, as we usually say at the end of every show disclosure tonight, eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everybody. But
go back to Party City where you belong.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. Catch you tomorrow, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.